Avatar: The Way of Water. Yes, the long-awaited sequel is finally here. It's been 13 years since the first Avatar film was released. But does it live up to the hype? Jake Sully lives with his newfound family formed on the moon Pandora. Once a familiar threat returns to finish what was previously started, Jake must work with Neytiri and the army of the Na'vi race to protect their home. As I just stated, it's been 13 years since the original Avatar film. And we've been hearing about a sequel to Avatar ever since the first film came out. I swear I just started high school when they're like, Avatar 2's in production, and that was back in like 2010 or 2011. It felt like this movie was never going to come out. The reason this film wasn't coming out was because of James Cameron. James Cameron is one of those filmmakers I absolutely admire because he doesn't take shit from anyone. Maybe he's a little conceited, who knows, but I have to respect someone that knows his craft and won't bend the knee to anyone. He knows what he makes is great, and he knows it takes time to make certain things. That's why when Titanic came out, it took 12 years for Avatar to come out. He was waiting for the right technology to make the film, and that's what happened with The Way of Water. Apparently there's a lot of rewrites, and there's a lot of technology that wasn't out yet to make The Way of Water. And James Cameron said, we are not making this film until I am absolutely sure we can make the best film possible. And I'm happy that we have filmmakers like James Cameron, and I'm happy he took his time because I thought The Way of Water was incredible. This was definitely worth the wait. And this is coming from someone who really likes the first Avatar film a lot. But my issue with it, and I think a lot of people have the same issue, it's not super original. The story, you can kind of guess exactly how things are going to happen. The plot points seem very basic and things we've seen before. So I was excited to see a sequel to Avatar because I thought the world that James Cameron built was really interesting. And this movie honestly blew me away. I think that I have to process it a little bit, but after my first viewing, I just walked out of it about an hour ago. I think this is better than the first film. I think there's a lot of different things that James Cameron does in here that makes the film just amazing. And I mentioned the world he built, and that's one of the things I love about Avatar: The Way of Water, is that it really builds the world of Pandora. There's a story to tell, but at the same time, James Cameron has crafted a script and a movie that also builds this ginormous world of Pandora that we've seen a lot of already in the first film, but this really just expands it so much. It seemed like that first film had your basic story to introduce some of these characters in the world itself, and here it takes a lot of these characters in different aspects of this world and really dives deep into it. And it makes the experience just feel more epic. It feels like there's so much going on, but James Cameron does such a great job of crafting this story and this world that you're just mesmerized throughout the entire film. And the story itself here, I absolutely loved. Yes, there are some plot points that are very similar that I won't talk about because of spoilers, but there are some plot points that remind me of the first film. That will eventually go into my issues that I'll talk about later, but I will say this story itself felt a lot different from the first film, and it went in a way that I actually had no idea where it was going, in a good way. It kept me guessing on what's going to happen next, what these characters are going to do, and what James Cameron is trying to tell us here. And there's a lot of great and surprising things James Cameron throws into the story with certain characters, the meaning behind certain things, and overall this beautiful world of Pandora. The story is filled with so much emotion. This film is definitely more emotional than the first film. There are parts of this film that I did not expect the way it would go, and it really becomes very powerful. The different meanings behind messages that James Cameron's trying to say, but also certain things that happen to characters and the overall meaning of that too. And it was really moving by the end of the film that I was surprised by because the first film has its emotional beats and I was moved in certain different ways. But this film, The Way of Water, moved me way more. And there's so much emotion in this film that I also wasn't expecting too. It seems like James Cameron, like I said before, really wanted to establish something in the first film. And now it just seems like he's going deeper into those certain meetings, those characters, everything in this world. And he finally has time to do that. So I really hope this film does really well so we can get the rest of the films that he wants to make because I'm absolutely curious And I'm absolutely anticipating for Avatar 3, 4, and 5. I want to see what happens next with these characters in this world. Now I'll talk about the visual effects because this movie is absolutely breathtaking. It's stunning. It's visually unbelievable. It's one of the best looking films I've ever seen. I know a lot of it isn't real, but this is the best CGI I think I've ever seen. Whether it's the close-up on characters and the Na'vi giving real emotion in some scenes and everything looks so fucking real, or if it's an epic battle and all of that just looks incredible. But the thing that looked absolutely insane and beautiful were these water sequences, which I read were the reasons why this film was postponed so much, because James Cameron wanted to make sure we nailed these water scenes. I mean, the movie's called Way of Water, so I understand why he would want to do that. And I'm glad he took his time because these are the best underwater sequences I've ever seen. The water sequences here are absolutely beautiful. And it's mind-blowing some of the shit that James Cameron was able to pull off in some of these sequences. And there's so much detail in these sequences too. And just every shot in the world of Pandora, you can tell that James Cameron loves this world he's created so much and how much money's on the screen that he makes sure that every little detail and every shot just looks perfect. There's creatures in the water that are everywhere, like every little frame, the light, how it reflects. It is honestly mind-blowing. I am so glad I saw this in IMAX 3D. If you're going to see the movie, see it in IMAX 3D or at least IMAX because it is just incredible to look at. And this is the type of film you're supposed to see in that type of theater. And also, the runtime really didn't bother me. It's 3 hours and 10 minutes, which sounds like a long time. And it does feel like a very long movie. But I think it's paced and structured extremely well. A little bit different than the first film, but it has this weird structure to it where I was always engaged to what these characters are trying to do or trying to learn, the meaning behind different things. And then we finally get to the big climax of the movie, and that climax is like an hour of the movie. And it really pays off, and it's incredible. Maybe even more epic than the final battle in the first film. And that's really hard to say because that first battle was absolutely insane. Now I'll talk about a little bit of the issues I have in this film that I don't really want to talk about because I really like the film so much, but you come here for my opinion. And Avatar, The Way of Water, isn't perfect that a lot of people want it to be, but there's some minor issues. I think the first, third of this film is a little chunky. I would say, the first fourth. There's some pacing issues there. It is interesting and very exciting to be back in the world of Pandora, and there's things I absolutely love that they did in the first fourth of this film, but sometimes the pacing feels a little off before we get to the main plot of this movie. And also, there are a lot new characters, and I think they develop about half of them very well. The other half, they're kind of left in the dark, they're kind of off to the side, and maybe there'll be more development in the later Avatar films, but it seems like there was only focus on certain characters and some were left off to the side. Even some main characters from the first film, I felt like were kind of pushed off to the side as well. And those are really my minor issues. Those are the only reasons why this film isn't perfect like a lot of people want it to be. But honestly, I was just blown away by this movie, and I'm happy that James Cameron was able to pull off this sequel, something we've been waiting for 13 years. When I saw the first film, I was in 8th grade. I had an afro. Look at me now. I'm 26 years old. I live in Chicago, and so much has changed since then. And I'm just happy he pulled something like this off to tell an interesting story that has so much emotion and really to build this beautiful world of Pandora and absolutely tell a great story, but also set up some sequels that I really want to see what happens next in this Avatar saga. The wait was worth it. It was visually stunning. I'm glad we waited to get those visual effects on this film. James Cameron is one of those filmmakers that is one of the greatest of all time. I respect the hell out of him for taking his time, and I'm glad he did here because this is one of the best movies of the year and one of my favorite sequels I've seen in a very long time. I'm going to give Avatar, The Way of Water, 9 Davey Daves. This is definitely in my top 10. I'm actually mentally thinking about where I'm putting it, and there's some films that I I really don't know how I'm going to stack up. This has actually been a really great year for cinema. There are some amazing movies coming out, and that's going to be my next video is my top 10 of the year. And you'll see there's some films I didn't even review, but I was able to see a lot of the films this year, so I'm excited to talk about that. But Avatar: The Way of Water, I mean, go see it now. I thought it was better than the first. I think it was well worth the wait, and I'm excited to see what you guys think. So Avatar: The Way of Water, let me know what you guys thought of it once you've seen it. I'm curious to hear, and thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Dave's Takes.